You guys won't be asking for a copy.
Years ago, they had a development plan that shows like layout.
Oh, sir.
It's like somebody's dream, you know, before 2008.
Pretty soon we'll be standing room only.
And fire sirens.
Everyone's tired, you guys. Resetting the floors.
Yeah.
All this paper.
All the paperwork that's coming.
Yeah.
Plans.
The rumor you were playing hockey was not true, right, bro?
Yes.
I said the rumor that you were playing hockey today was not true.
Marshall, that's a data request that I need those items from you. I don't have those items. Those will be from when you were president. And you didn't use the TITA box, so I can't. You used your own email.
You could think of that.
Just made stuff up.
Thought I was losing it there for a second. Now I'm good.
Doing anything fun lately or just work?
Just for you. Gotta get it done in one.
Potential, well, we're gonna do that or Oh, did he? I'm trying to figure out if we can get a TV and I believe Top down, everything else, so.
we may have really improved that expenditure. Also in. No.
Girlfriend, no.
You went like that.
As in,
missed that one.
Like the city should be about a half hour, maybe.
So, so we got some more. Yeah, I remember that. City, your site plans and all that, so we get site plans. And I think the idea is for the city for to use and say, okay, you're gonna be current illumination. Depending on this, this also means that. So.
So it's the same thing on the top.
Yeah, but it's a much larger chunk of land. So, and the marina right next door, they said, you're up for it, this as well. So, I mean, that house, and there's nobody else next to me, because it's the county behind it, so. Because it got 50 acres full of it, so, but there's a bunch of white, so, that's good, on paper, this is, it's good, but I can't tell you, if they come back and say that what the information is, this is wetlands, and,
Well, they'll have to get it illuminated, which they can't do.
the spring,
And the next thing they have to get them illuminated. Long city ordinance, they gotta remove that with tank on
I
it.
think it's in the shoreline though.
it's set back far enough where it may not impact it, but
So I don't
that's,
know
right, and that's what I told them, that there's, there's a whole bunch of rules.
Anderson. Here. Allison.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
Hidden. Here. Navich.
Here.
Yeah, all here.
Motion to accept the agenda amended to pages 5, 8.6. Support. Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. For support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, public input. Any public input at this time?
I have public input. You want one thing? Okay, first I want to preface this by saying that I've always had the utmost respect for the entire ambulance service, the volunteers, the management. As a firefighter myself, I know what it's like to get that call in the middle of the night. I know that the folks in the EMS service get many more than those who are just in the house. That said, I've got issues here that I'm going to address tonight, which I hadn't intended to until the last meeting. But I am concerned that the paid on call staffing change has been sold on misinformation. Mr. Altenberg claimed that the shift to paid on call would increase profits. Go back to the original report that he provided to the council in 2017. He said the department would generate more profit. In fact, the plan generates more revenue, but even Mr. Altenberg eventually acknowledged during our March 9th interview that he was in error when he said it would generate more profit or net revenue. I have the exact quote there. I should have said gross revenue, not net. That was a mistake right there. So that's an acknowledgement that he made to me then, and I asked at the time, are members of the council aware that this was not going to be a profit-making venture. And he said, well, I know at least 2 of them are. So that was a problem right there. If the council was making a decision thinking this was going to be resulting in extra profit, then you were operating in the dark when you made that decision. He also claimed that the change was needed because call volume was skyrocketing. During the November 26th meeting, Mr. Altenberg challenged my reporting on call volume, which I indicated had failed to show the huge increases he was claiming. I have a copy right here of the actual report that he had and has all the numbers that I reported at the time. His response to this was, are you kidding me? We had 5 years in a row that went up 20%. There is data to support it. There is monthly and yearly charts that show all this. Why does anybody need to lie about the call volume? That was an exact quote from the November 26th meeting. I have right below there are the facts. These are the actual call total runs, and those are based on those reports that you get every month from Mr. Altenberg. I save all those and bring them back, and I add up the numbers, and that's what you come to if you add up the numbers. And you see for 2015 you had 401, for 2016 you had 449, for 2017 you had 425, and through October 31st you had 410. I think you had only 20 runs in November, so you're up to about 430 with 1 month to go. These numbers are, the numbers in 2018 are actually inflated by the fact that you're doing additional transfers to try to pay for the paid on call to generate more revenue. So when you actually look at the number of emergency calls, which is your primary objective, keep in mind, transfers are a non-emergency situation. Patients have to be stable. Those are optional. Those are not required like you are required to respond to emergency runs. You go to the next page, you see the total emergency runs, and in 2016 you had 361. In 2017 you had 353. And this is all based on the data. And I'm not just giving you numbers, I'm giving you the backup information because I've attached the run reports, and you can add up the numbers yourself. In fact, I'm going to request that somebody do that. In 2018, you've had 310 emergency runs through October 31st. You're probably going to finish the year below your 2017 numbers. So when he claims that there's a 20% increase, I don't know what he's talking about. It certainly hasn't been over the last 3 years. Your run data or trend has been flat, and that's what I reported. So and I'd like somebody from the council to actually take a look at this. I know, Kevin, you're good with numbers. Maybe you could take a look, and I'd be happy to sit down and ask you any questions. Now, when he uses his city position to stand up here in front of you and accuse me of lying, that's a pretty serious situation. In her newspaper, your reputation for honesty and integrity is an integral part of your business. It would be no different than if you had a city health inspector who was mad at a restaurant owner and got up at a city meeting and said, his kitchen's full of rats. It's the same thing. It's defamation. These are false statements that are made in order to impugn my reputation and to get headlines on the newspapers. And this is true. He also falsely accused me of misquoting him from the November 13th council meeting. Now, I provided council members with a copy of the excerpt of the digital recording from that meeting, which proved that my reporting was word for word, and that Mr. Altenberg's disparaging statements at the last meeting were false and defamatory. But several times during his tirade, he accused me of false statements, when in fact the information was readily supportable and came directly from information that he provided. It's plain that Mr. Altenberg is engaged in a reckless campaign of defamation against me and my business, most likely due to sour grapes over the recent election. Now, that's an issue between Mr. Altenberg and myself. Unfortunately, the city has allowed itself to be complicit in this defamation because city officials apparently gave Mr. Altenberg the go-ahead to video record the last council meeting which was dominated by the salary and posted on the city website. Now, this has never been done before by the city, and there's little question that Mr. Altenberg was the impetus for it, because he wanted to utilize the city website for his own personal effort to defame a local business owner and journalist. The city cannot allow its resources to be misused for such improper purposes. You have to address this now, where the city is demonstrating a reckless disregard for the truth. Now, there's still many questions out there regarding paid on call. And before I get them, I just want to mention one other thing. I don't care if he wants to call me a jerk. That's fine. If he wants to take me to task if I have actually incorrect numbers in the paper, I'm misreporting something, that's fine. I believe in accountability for myself as well as everybody else. But that's when you make up things, you make false claims, and he had the information to know that what he was saying was not true. And when you show that kind of disregard for the facts, that's a serious issue. Now, there's still many remaining questions regarding paid on call. You know, the council has not seen a financial report. Now, I see there is one in tonight's packet, which is good, and it shows that the spending has been dramatic. I mean, I was using, for this, I used numbers that I was provided by Linda that went through September 30th, and it was already apparent that the spending for the ambulance department has expanded dramatically. Total expenditures through the end of September was $298,000, and that didn't include almost $55,000 in equipment spending, which you guys approved last month. If you figure the additional expenditures for the final 3 months of the year, it's probably going to come in right around $100,000. And that's going to put your estimated expenditures for 2018 at $453,000. That's getting close to twice what you spent last year. And that's before you even buy an ambulance. Now, you're looking at some additional revenue, but now looking at the latest run report, that's going to be down because you saw a pretty big drop. So I think your revenue is probably going to come in no more than $480,000, maybe less than that. So if you go to the next page, you know, last meeting anyway, Mr. Altenberg made the statement that you made $102,000 profit in the service last year. This year it's looking to be closer to $27,000, maybe less than that now, based on the latest run report which I just got in the packet today. You know, the ambulance service is currently running well below Mr. Altenberg's targets for transfers, and as you've seen, the runs have definitely dropped significantly the past couple of months. And I know Virginia is making they're taking additional hiring now to increase their number of transfers that they're going to be able to provide to Essentia, Virginia, which is one of the biggest source of demand for these transfers. So we won't know for sure until the audit report next year, but there's no question that the ambulance spending has jumped dramatically. If you approve the purchase of an ambulance tonight, you will likely push 2018 spending by the service to over $700,000, which will substantially affect existing reserves. Now, I know that one of the questions that Mr. Altenberg asked me during our interview was, well, who cares? This is a nonprofit. Who cares if we make money? But it's an issue because of your ambulance purchases. And he mentioned it to me in March, and he also mentioned it last meeting, is that you need these surpluses to cover the cost of ambulance replacement because the township subsidy is insufficient to cover the full cost of those replacements. Therefore, you have to maintain an adequate net margin for this service. And you can't allow it to be unnecessarily diminished to a point where you can no longer cover that shortfall in the township subsidy. And the number of ambulances that the department operates does matter because it affects the cost of service. If you run 3 ambulances on a 7-year replacement schedule, you're buying a new ambulance every 2.33 years. If you're buying an ambulance today, you'll need to buy another one in mid-2021 and another in late-2023. At $200,000 a unit, that's $600,000 in capital outlay over the next 5 years, or an average of $120,000 per year. If the township subsidy equals $37,500 annually, you're going to lose $82,500 in annual surpluses just to cover the cost of ambulance replacement, much less other contingencies or capital needs like a new garage. So if you don't have the margins, then you're going to have a struggle to replace to meet these capital needs. So I think really what the council should be asking for tonight, and probably should have asked for a while ago, is a 5-year cash flow projection for the service, including ambulance and fire hall garage replacement costs. The council needs a clear understanding of how the paid-on-call and ambulance replacement timing will affect department revenues and expenditures. It should be reviewed by somebody with a strong financial background. You could also ask for a state study of the paid-on-call plan by the Emergency Management Services Oversight Board.
EMRSB.
Yeah. And you could be exploring alternatives, either alternative models for the paid-on-call, or adjustments to the paid-on-call. There's lots that should be looked at here, but you need to have facts in order to deal with those. You also need clarification of whether the ambulance service is running 2 or 3 ambulances in rotation. Mr. Alder claimed at the November 26th meeting that the ambulance service is not running 3 ambulances. He said they're running 2 rigs and a backup. So if the city buys a new ambulance, which 2 vehicles are you planning to scrap or park? I know you were getting rid of the 2011, but what about the 2013? Are you going to keep? You're going to park that one as well? I mean, I don't know what the plan is. It hasn't really been clearly outlined. So anyway, this is what I have, and I would like to get a response from the city. There was the one other aspect, too, on a number of occasions during his performance last meeting. Mr. Altenberg did claim that I had misstated numbers and was twisting numbers, and I did include a copy of the graph that we had in our newspaper article back in March, and I also included a copy of the information that he provided to me, which outlined the numbers. I could sit down with Kevin if you would like. I could go through here and show exactly where every single number that we reported came from, and it came from Mr. Altenberg's numbers. So, I mean, that's what I have tonight, but I think you do need to address this, and you need to figure out whether or not you're going to deal with issuing a retraction. I mean, if we had published something making disparaging comments about anybody, and then they came back and gave us information saying, hey, that's not right, we would be obligated to bring either a correction or a retraction or something. And I think it's incumbent upon the city to do the same in this situation. Thank you.
Any questions?
The question for me is something I posted on the city website.
Yeah, we reported in all of our meetings now,
Since when?
since the first one that we reported.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm agreeing to having that done for one, but I know it's a public meeting, it can be done, but I didn't know that all was on there. So, yeah.
I'm glad to answer any questions you have about that. I sat there and gave you actual numbers, and he says he used our numbers and came up with totally different numbers, so that was the question. And I pointed out all the inconsistencies. I don't know. Yes.
I would invite any of you to ask questions at this point.
The call numbers, I never said we went up 5 or 20% in the last 5 years over the last 3 years. That was since I've been on. The calls have doubled. The mayor is on the ambulance service, he knows this to be true. There is data for every one of those years. It was never asked for, it was never looked at. And there were 5 years in a row that we went up 20%. 2017 was the first year that we did not have an increase. Up until then, every year it did increase. But if you're just going to selectively pick 16, 17, and part of 18,
Well, that's what we reported in the story. And
it
then you
didn't
called
say
me a
just
liar
16,
for-
17, and 18. It said that,
That's-
it did not say that.
It did. Sorry.
And this year, yes, we have spent more money on equipment. That is not unusual. The year Bernie bought those 2 brand new Stryker cots, that was all of the profits for the year gone at 30 grand back then. Once in a while, you do end up spending a bunch of money.
Yeah, I'm very well aware. I've been with this every step of the way. And the other thing that you have to remember too is, this isn't a etched in stone program either. And Steve made that abundantly clear all the way through. He said if it did not work, if we were losing money, then something was going to have to be done. We would have to go back to the drawing board on this program. I knew all along that that was a possibility. But, you know, we've said it time and time again, where we were at was not an option to continue. Yes, with members taking 200, 220, 250, 280 calls, I mean, it's not sustainable. Steve came up with a plan to remedy that situation, and that's what we did.
And that plan, by the financials that I provided to you guys, has paid for it. But like I said, this year, they did all the work they needed to do to pay for this year. So, and as far as the EMRSB, Chief Lewis actually encouraged me, after I told him how the program was actually set up, encouraged me to, he thought it would actually be to the benefit to have them come in and verify that program. And I did put in a request to the EMRSB based on his recommendation.
So you put in a request to the MSRB to do a study.
To do a study, they can do a full study, or they have partial studies, and I asked for the focus to be, if they can't do a full study at this time, or there isn't enough grant money to do a full study, if we could at least get a partial study in regards to paid on call and financials.
When did you request that?
I would have to go back and look at the email. It was requested to Holly Jacobson. I spoke with her first on the phone, and then she said, send me an email so I can remember to submit this. It would have been, oh boy, beginning of last week or the end of the week before. I honestly don't remember. It might have been beginning of last week, but I do have the email in my sent box from the evidence.
Any questions for Steve? Need more time on you.
What's your plan with that new ambulance? Are you getting rid of 2 or just 1?
No, so Unit 2 would be the one that we would try and sell. And it's the one we're using the most right now. As far as replacing ambulances in the future, you're going to take your oldest one and keep it as your backup one. So you're not going to keep buying new rigs just to have a backup rig. So you're just going to cycle them, sort of like Unit 3 has become now. It's the backup rig, because there's no, you might as well just use it until it's not usable. So again, with everything you just said about replacing rigs and stuff, I don't have that information really, but you're not buying new rigs just to take a newer rig and make it a backup rig. You're using an older rig as that backup rig to extend the life. And so when a new rig comes, the oldest, by age technically, the oldest rig, Unit 3, and this new Unit 2 would be the main rigs. You're going to need to break in the new one. You need to get that mileage in for the warranty and all that. And then you're going to use that number 3 up, and then you're going to park number one, and use it as a third rig if there's an immediate need for it, or the backup, and try and save some mileage on that one and stretch a little more life into it. So that's the idea. I wasn't aware we had to pass all these ideas through him for his approval, but
Anything else?
Well, I'm just trying to do some rough estimating on call numbers and other things, because we have November's numbers here of 20. That puts it up to 430 for the year, and doesn't include December. So even if we take the smallest month and assume 20 runs, that runs about 450. So we're going from 401 to 449 to 425 to 450, which means, yes, it does go up and down a little bit per month, but it does seem to actually be going upwards.
That's padded with all the additional transfers this year, however. You take those 50 additional transfers that you've done this year out of the picture, and now your emergency runs, your actual emergency runs are going to be down. Again,
up until November, I actually mentioned this before, up until November, we were 20 medical calls ahead. November was, as I had said in the last meeting, November was just in the whole region was a little quieter. And now it's kind of returned to normal again all of a sudden. So. But the transfers pay for the paid on-call staffing, so there again, it's a win-win. So, you still have people for the medical calls available. And the upward trend over the last decade has been growth. Like I said, last year was the first year since I've been on that there was actually a dip.
Well, I mean, we could go through all the details, but it really does come down to some very basic things. It's at a most basic level, and not counting capital expenditures, because we talked about that in a different venue. Not counting capital expenditures, overall, is the department budget going up or down? Like in terms of what it's making?
Well,
Right now,
Right now,
yeah.
it's going up.
So like,
Not counting capital expenditures, the department
yeah.
revenue is going up.
If you base it on this year alone, if you take the expenditures minus the revenues as of November 30th, it's 62,000 ahead.
Okay, so not counting capital expenditures,
No,
it's
you gotta buy
62,000.
in. But his one cost would have been paid for in that, which was like 20,000.
no, that was 15 and change
15,
on that.
you got the used out, so if that would already be included in those expenditures I mentioned.
And it still doesn't include any any December revenues or expenditures.
No.
Obviously, that's always a month behind.
Correct. You're
Okay, so just from that, it's 60,000 up. Now, the capital expenditure is obviously another thing of,
I question that. Serious.
Go ahead.
well, what I was gonna say is that capital expenditure side of things, you're gonna have capital expenditures on a rotating basis, regardless of whether or not their employees pay on call or not. You're still gonna have rotating expenditures. Okay, so that is another piece to it, but it's not like there wasn't an expectation that there were going to be capital expenditures along the line. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And because we are outfitting that third rig is and I have, when we get to the end of this report, I have some numbers for Councilor Doherty that he asked, but none of those expenditures, which I mentioned last meeting, there was $50,000 of profit money from this year that I have spent on new equipment, and 15 of that, as I stated, was when both those rigs went down. So 35 was in new equipment and 15 was in break profit money. So it doesn't show, it looks like it's expenditures, but it takes away from the money that we actually did make. But like I said, every once in a while, you have to outlay some money. And that's not unusual. When Matt had to buy a Zoll and a Lucas, that was $40,000. I mean, and that wasn't budgeted for. It came out of the profits of that year. But having that reserve is important, and you do need to. So it's cyclical. You build up a bunch of money, and that reserve has never been that high, and you end up having to spend money, and then you build it back up, and you have to spend it. So and that's the way it's just worked for quite some time. This is nothing new.
So the other question I would ask is an emergency run versus a transfer run, which one generates more revenue per run?
Transfers.
Transfers. So.
We just got some checks today,
Yeah,
$4,000, 20 some hundred.
It goes off the loaded miles.
So even with transfers offsetting emergency runs, it's actually generating more revenue per run with a transfer versus a
Yes.
emergency.
Medical runs are not money makers. Every service will tell you that you actually generate revenue from the transfers. And so for us, it's a great bonus, and it has been for years. And now we're helping it to subsidize having some regular staffing because we really need the extra help. So.
Anyone else? As far as videotape, obviously this one being videotaped as well. There was no go-ahead from the council. Put that on the city website. What's everybody's thought about it? Being on there, continuing to be on there.
Open meeting.
And it was, he is correct, a while ago said that it would benefit the city to have these tapes and posted, because then it ends what's being said, people can see what's actually being said, as opposed to what people hear on the street. So if they really want to know, they can watch it for themselves.
Very good. Any other public input at this time?
Well, I just question too the numbers, because sometimes you can make numbers look the way you want them to make it look. It's just a fact of life. But if you're increasing, you're talking about making money, but you're actually having to pay out more money because you're getting these staff people on call. And if you didn't have them on call, where would you be? I mean, you're making more money because of the runs, but you're making the runs because you have these.
We're still making more than
I
we
can
spend.
tell you exactly where we'd be in dire straits, because we'd be losing people left and right.
The main reason for this on-call is because it keeps people here, is what you're saying. It keeps your staff.
It keeps staff available to do the job that the ambulance exists for. That's the whole reason for it. It doesn't, it has nothing to do with me. The ambulance needs staff available to take calls.
I'm not saying anything about you, I'm just saying.
No, but I'm just saying
numbers,
that, but paid on call doesn't have anything to, well, the numbers come directly from the city's financial software. I have zero control over any of that. I ask for the same printout that anybody can ask for and that any of the council members see.
I'm not questioning it. What I'm just asking, you're generating more money because you have to pay for more staff, is all I'm worried about.
We absolutely are generating more money.
But you're paying out more money too, is what I'm doing.
Oh, we're spending more money on staff, yes, but overall, we are still making
You're
profit.
ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And those were the numbers that were presented last month. The increase in expenditures is because I've had to purchase new equipment. That has nothing to do with paid on call, so.
Any other public input?
I got one. Just real quick, I know you guys didn't really want a big thing or anything like that, but this guy, barring some kind of emergency or anything like that, this is technically your guys' last meeting, and I think someone at least needed to say thank you for your service.
There's no other public input, we'll move on to correspondences. 5.1, St. Louis County Planning and Zoning.
There's a letter in your packet from St. Louis County. There's a campground when we proposed, I think everybody's heard about it, over near Bayview. And we actually have a land parcel in the neighborhood, so we are entitled to communication, anybody from the city, anybody from the public. It's December 13th. I don't know if the city wants to issue an official comment. I'm signing up, but that was up to you guys.
property.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is within Greenwood Township, it's not actually within the city of Tyler, but because we're a landowner within the required distance, it was necessary to send us a notification. And we can issue comment, we can go to the public meeting, we can protest this, we can not protest this, we can support it. We can do whatever we want.
It's Greenwood's issue.
That's what that's what it is. Anybody have any other comments on that correspondence? If not, I'll move 5.2, St. Louis County Fair Board donation. Typically something that we've donated to in the past, considers that we are, as a city, available to donate to. The contribution has been relatively small in the past couple of years. I think we have $250. That's something you would be interested in doing again this year. So we'd like to make a motion to donate $250. Brad's got that motion. Is there support for the motion?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5.3, correspondence regarding EDA loan. Correspondence is in your packet. Wasn't included in them.
All the supporting documentation.
Has anybody, everybody had the opportunity to go through the first correspondence there regarding EDA? Yeah. Questions? Comments?
Come up later on the agenda as well, and I'm ready for you now.
I'm sorry, Linda, in which point?
2.9.
Okay. When we get to 8.9, is that when you'll have Jeremy on speakerphone?
No, we're not prepared for that.
This afternoon, I listened to Jeremy, and I had understood that as last time he would be speaking for Tower Harbor Shores. And he is the only representative since I'm no longer involved directly. So I think if you're not prepared to put the speakerphone out and call him again, I'm addressing you, Mr. Mayor, as well, then we would like to ask someone to call him on a telephone and put him on speaker telephone. He speaks for these issues now as general manager.
All right, let's get through the fives before we get to the eights. Does anybody have any questions on five?
Does anyone have any questions for me regarding 5.2? I'm a little blindsided because I just saw this a few minutes ago. I was the one that politely asked Ms. Eldenberg not to refer to the outlay of funds from that loan, which originally, by the way, was a grant from the IRRB to me, because it was used for the Tower Harbor Shores project. And I might ask the assistant or the secretary of TIDA, Terry, do you recall going through an audit of all of the documents that I was requested to turn into Linda, which were then based on the payment of funds? There was an audit that TIDA was asked to do, and I think that you were taking the minutes from that meeting. I seem to recall. Is that? So in other words, I followed the lead requested by the clerk treasurer to submit paid invoices, including the canceled checks from those invoices, and based upon that, payment was made for the, actually, her adding was wrong, so there was $126,000 paid out, but there were two principal payments made, and that included the $1,000 overpayment. So I guess I would like to have it confirmed that those transactions were reviewed by TIDA and approved to be legitimate and paid out accordingly. And they were paid out according to the request by the city clerk treasurer.
I put in a data request for that entire TIDA file, and that's the first file sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
And it is all in Tower Vision 2025 LLC. None of it is in Tower Harbor Shores, as was reported in the paper and as I was asked to say.
Again, I would like to have the general manager of Tower Harbor Shores participating in this meeting, because he's the one that appropriately should be answering these questions now. You may recall, Mr. Mayor, when the Tower Vision was approved by the TIDA City Council at that time. They were one and the same at that time. That part of those projects were going to be Tower Harbor Shores. As we developed the Tower Harbor Shores project, it became apparent that there would be a number of projects that would be under the umbrella of Tower Vision 2025, and oftentimes with different investors for each project. Therefore, it was prudent for us to form a new LLC that was for Tower Harbor Shores only, and that there would be other LLCs that would be developed for any other kind of project, small home development or whatever it may be, subsequent to the Tower Harbor Shores project being completed. And so the payments for, first of all, the two principal payments and then all of the interest payments were made accordingly to the city by Tower Vision 2025. However, the money was transferred within the bank accounts from Tower Harbor Shores, where the money was used, to Tower Vision and paid, so that the payments came from the appropriate entity that actually signed for the loan. Is that clear?
Does anybody have any questions on the correspondence that you submitted? Not right now. Not how everybody feels. All right. And we'll move on to 5.4.
Could I just ask, I really appreciate that the mayor has asked the council if there's any questions there, but I guess I would like to ask if anyone in the council feels that there was anything inappropriately done there, because we did follow the direction of the clerk treasurer and the intent of the grant which became a loan. Any concerns about inappropriateness?
I do have a few questions, but I was going to wait until 8.9.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Good. We'll have the general manager of Tower Harbor Shores speaking for that project at that time.
We'll move to 5.4. Correspondence with town board meeting.
These are obviously received today. If you would have liked to be here, but they have their meeting right now as well. No action required. Let's just sign some minutes. Straight.
Anybody have any questions? Have an opportunity to read through it.
Yep.
5.5, same.
Yep.
Anything else under correspondence? Moving on to 6. Except for correspondence, we have yours, 6.1. SCH engineering report.
There's a full report in your packet. In the interest of time and a Vikings game tonight, I'm just going to highlight a couple of quick things and leave it to you for questions. The Harbor Town Home Development, we already talked here a little bit about things, but the plat was submitted back in the middle of November. County is currently reviewing. They did call Linda last week with questions, so that tells us that we are hopefully very close. Pine Street, we reported last meeting that, of course, you received a grant for that. I did meet with St. Louis County and MnDOT in the interim here, had a kickoff meeting with them to kind of define responsibilities. And I'm making Linda aware of that, but I'm acting as your representative with those two entities right now. LCCMR, you probably saw payments start getting ripped up this week or late last week, I should say. Nordic Construction out of Superior awarded the project. We had a pre-construction meeting. That one has started. Jumping all the way down to Lampa, that project is ongoing. You probably have noticed the building is now enclosed and heated and is making better progress. And then on the agenda tonight is the Standing Bear Marina demo. There was a allowance left on that for demolition of the crane, overhead crane. We came to an agreement late last week on Friday, I believe. So after you look at it tonight and discuss it, I would hopefully be directing them to just get it done. It's not increasing money, just defining what it is they're going to do.
Okay.
On the Lampa one, we're looking at trying to finish by February. Is that still correct, or is that?
You know what, I do not have a schedule or updated schedule with me at all. That is correct as far as a month ago when I asked, but I did not ask in the last month, so.
Just curious. That was the last number I heard.
Yes, I will try to bring you updated schedule for the next meeting.
Any questions for Matt or Jason on the SCH engineering report? Thank you, gentlemen. 6.2, ambulance report.
Not much. You can see we're at 4:30 for the year. November, as I said, was unusually quiet. We only did a total of 20, and December has picked back up a little. The only thing I had to correct was Councilor Doherty, you had asked about in that last meeting about mutual aid calls, and I had said there was like one weekend when I didn't really, so I went back and actually looked at the information, and this is what I've got currently. So the first 3 months of the year, we didn't have any paid on call staff. So we had 2 mutual aid calls where we didn't have any staff to answer the call. We had 3 mutual aid calls where they were back-to-back calls, but one of the rigs was down. This is during the breakdown times. So, and then we had 3 that were both mutual aid calls, where both rigs were down at the same time. So initially, we kept getting one back and then it would break again, we had to send it in. So that's what was going on there. And then we had 2 where there were back-to-back calls, so we had to call mutual aid for that 3rd call. One of those we had staff for, but we didn't have that 3rd rig, so we couldn't do anything on it. One of those, that same one was, we did have a rig out on a transfer. That rig was out first. Then we got a mutual aid call over to Ely, so we went and helped them. There was a stroke patient that needed help. And then there was a call to Fortune Day that we called Cook to take for us. And if we had that 3rd rig, we wouldn't have had to do it that time. And then we had 4 weekend ones where there is no paid on call staff. One of those was a rig was down though, so we had a back-to-back again on the weekend. We didn't have a 2nd rig, so we had to call somebody to help. So that was the actual accurate information. Because of those breakdowns, we had several that we needed extra help this year. But that's other than that, I don't have anything else special to report about the ambulance.
Any questions? Now we'll move on to the fire report.
Suddenly, all of a sudden, the end of November became active. We had a water alarm at the school and clinic. Turned out it was just a water alarm. There was a faulty sprinkler head, luckily, in the basement. So no major damage over there. We had structure fire here in town. It was spotted and reported quickly, and Jason from Brighton PD helped knock it back. It was burning on the outside of the wall. It started inside the wall. He knocked it down with his extinguisher, and then we got there and finished it off. So minimal damage from the fire on that one. We had a dumpster fire. One of the, I don't know, it's got to be a 40 or 50 yard dumpsters had been burning. It must have been burning all night long, slowly but surely, and nobody noticed it because it was really cold that night. Somebody noticed it in the morning. Some smoke. We got there. It was it had pretty much burnt itself, everything inside the dumpster up. So all we had to do was cool it. There was no threat to anything else. And then there was a significant structure fire that we mutually aided to in Greenwood and Cabin. It didn't burn to the ground, but it was a total loss on that one. So, that was it. The only other thing I have to report for fire is that for years we've been auto aid with Greenwood and Brighton, and the 3 departments have agreed to change how that works. They didn't have box alarms before in the county, and they do now. So instead of getting called mutual aid automatically for every call, the 3 are looking at changing it to a box alarm for structure fires, auto extrication, and water emergencies only. So for those, you would all get called at the same time. Other than that, they're not going to call you for a tree on a power line unless they actually need your help. That department will call you. So that's it. That's something that we're looking at changing. That's pretty much it, unless you have any other questions.
Thank you. The report is in your packet.
Isn't that resolution?
Yes, 8.16.
Oh, okay.
Now, move on to airport commissioner.
They have put an application for some of the removal buildings, as well as some crack sealing on the runway. We don't know if we're gonna get this, we don't know if we have, capital to cover it, but the application is due December 1st. So we thought we're gonna try.
I'll make a motion to apply.
Okay.
Do you need motions?
No.
Oh, they don't see
It's just a pre,
Anything else came from the Tower River Commission?
well, there's two other items put on the agenda later.
Anything else? Not, we need a motion to accept reports from officers, engineers, commissions, and support.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. 7.1, Tower Development. Remember we left off last time. With lawyers talking to each other. Did that happen?
No, because I never found out who their attorney was until late, about 8:30 Wednesday evening. I requested it 4 times, here's a copy of the request right here, and I never heard back.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I think that this discussion is going to be a sham unless you bring Mr. Schoenfelder onto the phone. I think there's more to the story. So if Jeremy isn't brought in, as he told he would be, then I don't think there's any point in discussing 7.1. So if you have, I mean, I'd like to ask the council, Jeremy has been in contact with Linda, and this becomes a one-sided discussion if Jeremy is not included. I have not been included because I have turned everything over to the new general manager, who is Jeremy. So I think that the speaker phone should be brought up on the table, and Jeremy should be brought into this discussion. And I guess I'd like to know if anyone on the council disagrees with that.
What's in to discuss?
I might want to ask, why do you not want Jeremy in this discussion?
We haven't even, we just started talking about this.
I know.
Then relax.
Well, Linda's just been asking about who's been
We're
contacting.
gonna let the
us,
council
right?
decide what's gonna happen. That's what they're here for. No decision has been made on anything yet.
No, this is the discussion period, right?
There is no discussion period. We
About
are
deciding?
If the lawyers haven't talked, I guess we're not any farther than we were the last meeting.
Well, I got farther because I talked to our council. The only thing that this council can, the city council can do, and this is exactly what I stated to you in October, is agree to a percentage of taxes which we wish to abate for a term that we wish to abate them for. We can't agree to loan percentages, loan returns. We have 2 options, term and percentage to abate, and that's it.
And I will take full responsibility for this. This is where we screwed up back in November. If you remember correctly, and I can't remember if it was the second meeting in October, first meeting in November. First meeting in November,
Yes.
we gave a deadline to agree to a development agreement. In that development agreement, the term would be set with 100% abatement of county taxes and a 65% abatement of city taxes. With the caveat being, and included in that development agreement, that if the county did not agree to the 100%, we would come back and discuss it. Right. Yeah. We got an email from Jeremy stating that in addition to that, an additional 12% would be required in order to satisfy their investors. The mistake being that we should have never re-entered in negotiation. That night, a decision should have been made and a development agreement should have been signed or not signed. I lost sight of that, and I regret that.
Well, I think we're all just trying to get to the county to get some sort of answer, right?
That's, you're absolutely right, you know,
And that's where we can agree to a term and a percentage, nothing more,
you know, the.
of our own taxes, not
Of
theirs.
of our own taxes.
Right.
That's absolutely correct.
And with Nick Scarich and the other guy, they basically told us that they don't do 100% of county taxes.
Right.
And to me, it seemed like we just kept going back and forth on what he would say, but going to ask for 100% the whole time, so it was basically a stalemate up to that point for me. We
Feel like
still
we
will ask
can
for,
agree on this?
still will ask for 100%.
On any sort of agreement?
Well,
Going around,
I
going around.
think the council needs to probably go back to what they said in the beginning. Because at the end of the day, and again, I'll take responsibility for this, for not thinking of this back in the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago for that matter. You know, at the end of the day, our responsibility is to do what's best for the city. Their bottom line doesn't or shouldn't mean anything to us. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So, with that said, if you would like to have Shane Feldman on the phone to discuss that with him and throw that idea around, I'm more than willing to put the speakerphone up here. If you do not, that's fine with me too.
What was the result of, I mean, obviously now that we did a lawyer, do you have any other information for us on
Christopher's told
what
me
the
that
state, the League of Minnesota Cities said and our lawyer says?
as far as the
Do you have
debt,
any information for me?
as far as the debt,
Do you have anything?
Going back to what was said at the last meeting, Jeremy was right.
Okay,
Okay? You can, in fact, do that.
okay.
Not the 12%. And it's not technically considered debt. But Linda, I think you have a better grasp on how to explain this than I do. I understand it, but your explanation is better.
by statutory definition, it's not a debt, it's an arrangement. The statute applies to debt specifically. Arrangements are outside of that. You are still pledging public tax dollars, and all that still stands. If this were a debt, it would be the prime plus due. It's an arrangement, so it's outside of statute 475.
So there again. Wipe the 12% off, man. It's not an intention. Okay. It can't be done.
All you can commit to is your own tax that you collect and what you want to do with them.
So, like I said, we were wrong in saying statutory.
Because
we were
it's
not
not
able to get entered.
You can get the tax with their dollars and paying road.
Yeah, way up and above time plus 2.
Well, and then the other thing we have is it's also, that has changed since last time, is the Alberta grant. So that also changes how much is gonna end up getting borrowed or supplied, because it wasn't, instead of whatever the original amount was, it's less, because the city's gonna be taking on a portion of the road and other stuff because to the Alberta grant. So they have a lesser amount that they would have to meet, so the city's coming to meet them on part of it because we're taking on a portion of that through the Alberta grant, because grant pays a portion of it, then the city's still gonna pay a portion of it. So it's a smaller number than it was before.
It is in fact a smaller number than it was before.
So we would have got to come back for that anyway.
But, again, everything, all of this, hinges on a development agreement being signed. We can set term and amount. That's it. If we don't have a development agreement to send to the IRRB, to send to the county, there will be no more money from the IRRB. The money from the IRRB is going to be needed for match for that outlet. authority is not gonna give us more money to put in down there without assurances that there's going to be something put in down there. They don't like to just put in infrastructure for no reason. I can't blame them. And nor should we want to. We have infrastructure that we need to take care of presently in the ground. Got that right. So again, would you like Mr. Shane to open up the phone to discuss this with him and let him do these new things?
Otherwise, I would just have Christopher draft an agreement with whatever percentage in turn we come up with and send that over to her.
So just do that. I was gonna say the same thing, go with that, which you can't do. Right, so just draft it up, send it.
What percentage and what can we?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Very well. Discuss this part of it then. Or our proposal was at 100% and 65%. We have an fairly good authority that 100% is likely pie in the sky. Then you have a new formula of tax abatement available to us that takes into consideration the LRIP money and the potential IRRB money that would be awarded to help match that. This would require a 75% county abatement of taxes and a 62.5% city tax abatement. Over 10 years. This would cover the cost of the infrastructure, correct?
Correct.
And essentially be calculated at time plus 2.
Correct. I think 3,000 short. But, and I did tell everybody this when we originally looked at these numbers, that these are going off of all parties being homesteaded. That if anybody's non-homesteaded, they would actually pay more tax, so their return would actually increase. I can't forecast who's homesteaded, who's not homesteaded, so I went all low on my rates. And as taxes go up and as they raise taxes, that would also impact that, but I can't forecast what future council will do. So I went with today's numbers, all being homesteaded, so that I had at least the bare minimum.
And the development agreement in principle is drafted. These numbers just need to be
Just
added.
need to be split in again.
Times plus 2 would be a $136,000 return
Correct.
instead of $470,000
Correct.
for infrastructure.
Correct.
75, 62.5.
And we'd only be talking about the 62 and a half in our county, would still go wild and do it for a while.
Wouldn't that change all these numbers though?
Yes,
Essentially.
that would certainly. Now again, you could go, put a pie in the sky and go for 165. Or go with more likely palatable option. And in the interest of saving a rejection letter, move on with this.
Maybe send a copy of this to, has Jeremy seen this or anything like that?
I don't know if we're insured from this package or not.
There again, doesn't really matter.
No, I know.
Because, okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, but I heard my name.
there was no question.
Statement? I heard my name.
And I was just wondering if the new
That's fine.
abatement formula had been sent to Jeremy. It has not.
No. Oh, so we wouldn't know. I thought you meant this one.
But this one, essentially. Is it more than that?
No. It was 65 and 75 that we were on last night.
Oh, it's
Or 65 and 100, yeah.
yeah, it's set 160.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm saving almost after their crop, if they're putting stuff in the ground.
Lance?
Yeah, that's it. Hopefully all parties agree.
So that'd be a motion to go to 75% and 62.5% for 10 years.
Yep, 62.5 for 10. Yeah, we can.
You're making the motion to this, so what this, it's gonna be a total bid for the county. Their portion. So do we have a motion on the table?
For 62.5% over 10 years?
Mhm.
Yes, so moved.
Kevin has got the motion, is there support for the motion?
Support.
Is there any other, excuse me? Brooks got support, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would you care to put a due date on this accounting agreement being signed? Before the end of the year, or whenever, it's.
The last one was supposed to be November 15th, so we passed them.
Right.
December 15th?
I would suggest January 15th.
What else would we suggest?
Whoa, have some respect.
Guys,
Because we get a ton of it.
please,
Audience should be quiet.
please. It's up to this council to decide whether or not they want to see a fair time frame for an answer on this.
Well, again, though, it doesn't matter until the county comes back, though, right?
We have
So we're waiting on the call.
No, we have to have an answer from the developers first before we send it to the county.
Oh.
Yeah,
We need the
Yeah,
developer.
the development agreement has to be signed. They have, the county has to see the signed development agreement.
21st, 17th,
Not too first.
17th, that's all we.
Yeah, say 1 week. Right?
Well,
11 days?
but that's, you know, give the time to go to the lawyer, give the time to, so their lawyer, and they can review it.
Has the city letter seen it?
There's it ready now. I mean,
It's ready, all,
numbers.
these numbers have to be slid into it, and the term and the numbers, we
There were
have that
three
both
that
right
were,
here.
that were open. It was these two items and then the deliverables, which were established back at the October meeting. And that was the time frames of when everything was gonna start. And we've already knocked that down, so now the only two items that were left were the term and the percentage.
How many times did you ask for who their lawyer was to contact?
The night after the meeting, about 3 days later, the next day, because I added something to that list, and then yesterday, a final reminder.
Have we got anything back on any of those requests for what we did?
Not, no, just that Jeremy would like to call tonight. But some of them aren't, they're actual documents, so we can't take care of it with a call.
I mean, ideally, this should have been worked out before this meeting the last time around, because that's what we were looking at, is to have this done before this meeting, to say yes.
That's on us.
And that seems to keep happening, meeting after meeting after meeting, where we're waiting for the next meeting, waiting for the next meeting, and waiting for the next meeting.
I agree. I don't disagree. I really don't. But we have our term, we have our amount. It's all about, been about, not dragging your feet. This is where it's at now. I mean, here we go. You got your number, you got your term, get the development agreement out. Well, whatever happens, happens, past that.
The other issue is we're coming up on the end of the year, so we can't really set another meeting unless people are actually here. unless it's something that we don't have to meet for, if it's already signed.
No, I'm not trying to lead you guys one way or the other. If it's gotta wait until January, it's gotta wait until January. I mean, it is what it is, but I think, you know, with every other time that we've done this, we've set dates to have, you know, a signature on the papers, and we haven't done that.
This is the only new piece, the rest of the development agreement is passed in June. This will be the only new piece of it to look over.
This is what you're offering. So I would imagine as quickly as tomorrow, it can be put in. Andy doesn't have to look at it, Chris doesn't have to look at it, they've looked at it a million times already. It just needs to be forwarded off to that group. And they're local. Which can be done in relatively short order.
Do you want a response date?
Yeah, Friday? No.
This Friday.
That's what it is.
14?
Somebody want to make a motion? Somebody make a motion. Is there support?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We move to 7.2, unfinished business, adopt 2019 budget.
Sent home, looking the last time, copies of the expenditure and revenue budgets, nothing, I didn't change anything since we've been here. Still stuck with the 0.5% revenue increase. Any questions? Have you reached out to me, anything? I got one citizen question, and it was only because he got his preliminary statement and he saw the 10% increase. like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
So he was much happier to see that, it was gonna come down. And thank us for managing the budget so well, with only a 0.5% increase, actually.
When was the last time you did that?
I feel like you did last year, you did 3% something special.
We added some money for all field last year. So I think we went 2%. I don't do EC. We just go any higher. I'm fine with 9%. It sets our, reserves are perhaps what's done with it.
It's 50,000, the same as this year.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we need a motion to adopt 2019 budget.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to 8.1, new business certified at 2019 budget. Simply need a motion to set the levy at 0.5% for 2019. Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.2, Lansing Enterprises, Cuba Building Pay Estimate number 5.
This is a pay estimate for the building work. I think it's kind of a little bit smaller this month, I'm assuming because of Thanksgiving and whatnot. And I would expect it to ramp up now if we got it towards then we should be able to work without impact with it.
This one's for public.
This will be 119,320.
So, according to that, a little over a third done. Roughly. Do you need a motion to approve pay estimate number 5?
I'll make the
Lansing
motion.
Enterprises, Lance has got the motion to support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. A motion to, 8.3, Lansing Enterprises, Martina site work pay estimate number 5A. This will be in amount of $13,110 and nearly brings that portion of the project to completion.
I think the only part that's left is the paving, which will have to be done this spring. There's Matt that can answer that. What part of the last?
Final work course left?
There's final wear course of paving and a little bit of restoration, seeding, mulching, that kind of stuff.
So I'm pretty much for sure we're on hold the site until springtime.
So is there any request for payment on the site work?
13,110.
Which leaves how much left?
About 35,000.
Oh, 35,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we need a motion to accept and approve pay estimate number 5A.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Move to 8.4, low impact marina demo project, change order number 1.
Actually, that's a typo, it's change order number 2. Change order number 1 was removing the debris underwater that we did back in May. Change order number 2 is not a request for additional money, it's just a clarification that I wrote. We had a $25,000 allowance in there, of which we used 60-some hundred for a change order, the remaining 18,000. We just got definition of what they're going to do, which is demolition of the overhead crane. So still within the original bid, I just wanted to define it so we could direct the contractor to do that amount of work.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept approved change order number 1 to the marina demo project.
Number 2, please.
I'm sorry, number 2. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the one.
Working. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.5, propane provider for the new Tita building.
Don't know when we reach out to Como.
We're locked into a contract for city building.
And yeah, unfortunately, one of our, it isn't our problem, it's a Water Board's problem, but Como had switched from where they sent you a letter asking you to confirm with them, and then you have to send a small deposit back. Now they don't do that, and you have to go there by, I think it's October 15th. One of the wastewater board employees got caught in the mix there and didn't realize that, but we told him he doesn't have a supervisor per se, so he's got left. And when we asked Como to reconsider and allow him in, and he was on the list of employees, the gentleman from Como was about as unhelpful as you could get. And on the city side, we also noticed that we left off one, it's John Burgess, we use his hangar for the New Holland.
Yep.
And we unfortunately left off his location and his name off of our list. And again, Como was about as unhelpful as we could get. So I didn't know if you wanted to stick with Como on this. I'm sure he'll give you the current selling price based on what you get for the other two people. It doesn't seem like our business really matters. I don't know if you want to go to somebody else, get full quotes. Let Lampa pick, I don't know. It's our ability.
Thoughts?
We're paying 149. We don't know what they're gonna offer.
When are we looking at doing it?
Now,
To heat the building?
now,
Heat the building for the contractors, or do they have their own temp heat, or what's going on?
They have to take care of their own temp heat, but in February-ish, hopefully, it's going to be your building. So I don't know, by making the decision tonight, doesn't happen tomorrow, obviously, but it would be just ready to go so that when there can be the permanent solution in the works.
And you're not gonna cover permanent.
based on his response to the other two locations, or the other two issues that we had, again, unless somebody finds his brain and realizes what a customer we are, I don't know.
I guess then we have to quote it and see.
that effect.
To do,
Put it out for
bids.
quotes.
Quote it out, and
Yeah, tank and everything, you got your original for tank sizes and
Because it's also gonna have to be a hanger too.
They're gonna need-
Some of them will be under that.
Well, either that or we'll manage the hangar for this year, you know what I'm saying? But if they use it as much of us, it's probably only 2 fields there. So it's arguing or whatever, it's not.
is the building all plumbed? It's gonna have to be plumbed,
Yeah. There'll be plumbing in there,
plumbing for gas lines?
yes.
So you're gonna have to figure all that out too, you're gonna have to figure out what you wanna call for a bid, and what do we call for a bid for, just gas or?
Oh, no, the inside of the building.
You'll do it.
Yeah.
Inside the building is plumbed per Lency building it right now.
yeah,
Your propane
Yeah,
provider
right.
just needs to hook it up.
We just
with
need
the side of the building.
Yeah, outside, yeah.
We basically need to come up with the same size that we want, and maybe a forecast of the number of gallons we expect to use. So I would imagine they're gonna try to figure out what to quote from that, based on our usage.
so we need a motion to put out for.
I made it.
Oh, I'm sorry, is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 8.6, street name in the harbor area. This kind of goes along with 8.8, but because of the recent passing of Urban, I've read a great deal to do with spearheading the harbor project at the beginning and had everything to do with getting the civic center built. I think it'd be a good idea if we were honored or by name the street known in the harbor for him. Being that the plat is just about done, this is the time to name that street now, rather than getting addresses and then doing it at a later date.
On your little colored map, it's that little orange piece that I drew. And then the question also here that I have on here is the little pink part that's tipped off the end, which is actually considered Pine Street. But I think after talking with Matt, that would make more sense to make that Harbor Drive.
So a very complicated explanation. Pine Street is platted north and south. South Second is platted from Pine Street to the east. That chunk of road right there exists just on city parcel. It does not have a road dedication to it. And I'm not suggesting you have to get that figured out. At some point you might want to, but I would strongly suggest it be called Harbor Drive. So that you have Harbor Drive all the way up and where it intersects an already platted Pine Street. That's your division of roadway.
Okay.
I think right now people call that Pine Street, but it's not technically Pine Street. It's not platted Pine Street.
Okay.
And as far as the naming of Harbor Court to Alampa Lane or Alampa whatever, just need to let me know sooner rather than later, because before we can sign it, we'll have to. The only thing we have to do with those names is we have to run it back through the 911 and all those people, because they're the ones that ultimately approve those names to make sure there's nothing else like it around.
Right.
So I'd have to run it through that and then get it back to the county. I don't think the county.
Give me a quick
care much.
rundown on the semantics of what is considered a boulevard, a roadway, an avenue, blah,
I
blah,
know you were
blah.
asking that question.
I know it.
I put you on the spot, but
I warned him.
Yeah, I don't know, like a way or a street or a lane, if it's okay if it's a dead end. I've never seen it can't be, but I don't have the answer for you, Josh. I know you're putting me on the spot, but I don't know the answer to that.
okay. Anybody have any thoughts?
We also have 8.8 up here too.
Maybe we could do them in conjunction. I mean, I would see the Civic Center, you probably, rename that the Herbert R. not the Civic Center. far as the, the catchy street name, I'm not exactly sure.
I don't think we have any trees in county that are people. It's
No,
just
they're all
numbers
trees.
and trees. So should we continue that trend?
What's that?
The road.
Well, Harbor Drive would break that right now.
Harbor Drive on the lane.
It's gotta be, it's gotta be Warby, Upward.
It could be lane. It could be court, it could be,
Or
Street and avenue kind of congested passes through, which
yeah.
So we could call it, since we can't do it, we don't Lampa Drive, over.
is that gonna get confusing with Lampa manufacturing over on 135?
Being that it's not on there, then what's that?
Would be confusing.
I would like to see Herb Lampa somehow put in there instead of just Lampa. Does that make sense or no?
It's gonna go Lampa.
Civic Center or Lampa.
I would, I guess what I thought about it is Lampa Drive, and then the Herber or Lampa Civic Center. Sure. So I would need a motion. Rename what is currently known as Harbor Court to Lampa Drive. Is there support, or is there a motion? Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.7, approve and adopt the Tower Harbor Act.
With the one change on that road, then
So
that is actually a piece of the process.
this pot went through planning and zoning.
Yes, they approved it at 27, whatever,
Happy?
Yes.
What this is doing, Josh, is the council, you, Tita, all have to sign that plat eventually.
Yep.
So it's just getting approvals in ahead of time, so when the county says, okay, you're able to sign.
Very good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there support?
Second.
Any discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.8, dedicate / rename the civic center. So I think we already talked about this, we effectively rename the Power Civic Center as the Herbert R. Lampa Civic Center. And we'll make a motion to that.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Power Vision 2025 EDA goal.
This loan, I guess, in quick history, the TITA president and Moreland had approached the IEEE about a shortfall in the harbor development and to get things going for them. The city wasn't really involved until we had heard that the grant was approved to TITA. And then there were a bunch of conversations about how to set up the procedures, the criteria, and whatnot. A couple of items that came out of that call is that TITA would issue an economic development loan to Tower Vision 2025 for $125,000. We would not request financial statements like we normally do. We would reimburse at 100% of the invoice amount, not the usual 50%, as long as we got the one-to-one match later. And then we would draft criteria for these funds going forward, which TITA had done. And there's a copy out there, and then that we would not request collateral as we normally do for these loans. So now, where are we? The loan has been extended by you as the council twice. You gave about a 9-month extension on interest-only payments and then another year extension. And then there was a late payment and a missed payment And then it was also alluded to before that it was actually 126 and not 125. In order to be compliant with our auditors, we're going to need to reissue this loan. And unfortunately, I hate to do this to you, but I have requested multiple times, you can see the dates on there, who the loan would be to, I still don't know. And who the authorized signers are, I unfortunately still don't know. And then the other issue with this loan is I still don't have the total number of invoices in dollar amount to close out the IRRB grants. With this loan, I've been yelled at, sworn at, and damn near assaulted over the darn thing. So at this point, it's up to you guys what you want to do, and I will carry out your wishes. But that's kind of where you're at, and I don't, if you choose to do nothing at this time, that would be well within your rights. The only thing is, when the auditors come in February, we'll have to disclose that this loan is defaulted, and it's a default on all parties, and like I said, I don't know who the responsible party is right now. Right now, it's issued to Television 2025. Here's a copy of the file if anybody wants to look at it.
There is no personal financial information in here, is there?
It was not required. We weren't allowed to require your children. That would be the new amortization schedule, and I think that's also in your packet as well, yeah. And you can see where the first two interest and principal payments were made. It was the first one that was late. And then the May 18 payment is still outstanding. I started working on this in October to try to get this right ahead of the end of the year, and this is where I'm at.
Questions? What's that? I suppose the person we're gonna have to ask is Jeremy.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear what you said.
I would imagine the person that we're going to have to ask who's going to be taking this loan over would be Jeremy, is that correct?
On Wednesday evening, I had a meeting with the clerk treasurer and Councillor Fitton, and I told them verbally at that time that the loan would be, it should be reissued to Tower Harbor Shores, and that Tower Harbor Shores will make interest payments and then principal payments when the time comes in the future. So that would be beginning with November. Currently, Jeremy would have to speak to the transition from Tower Vision to Tower Harbor Shores, and Jeremy or one of the principals of Tower Harbor Shores would be the signer. And that, I believe, is one of the things that Jeremy would have conferred to the council at the meeting tonight verbally, if he had been allowed to be on speakerphone.
We'll more than happily be allowing him on the phone to discuss this.
What, is there late fees for this stuff? We're not having any payments made or anything like that?
No, we haven't charged.
I might mention, Lance, as just in reference to what you just said.
Forget it.
sheet's not registered. Took me forever.
The interest payments that we made were based on what we were told to make. Unfortunately, they were less than what the interest should have been.
That's not-
And I've indicated to the clerk treasurer that the balance will be made up by the current leaders of Tower Harbor Shores before the end of the year. And I
Well, the
believe
check,
they're planning
the
on
original
doing-
check was made out to Tower Harbor Shores / Tower Vision 2025, right?
It's been unclear from the get-go who was what, and in fact,
Well, it
my-
says Orland's name on every signature slot in here, so.
my email asked that, what is the relation between Tower Harbor Shores and Tower Vision 2025?
Do you have, do we have an answer to that?
Yeah, it's the answer that I gave earlier, that originally we had Tower Vision 2025. When it became apparent that the projects, the building projects under Tower Vision 2025 would have separate investors, it was decided that it was prudent to have a separate LLC for each one of the projects. So in the beginning, Tower Vision 2025 and Tower Harbor Shores were one and the same.
Okay.
They were later split.
So they're split now,
They are.
and you are associated with Tower Vision 2025.
I am associated with Tower Vision 2025, but that is a shell company that owns nothing.
And you are, your hands are washed of Tower Harbor.
Yes.
Fully.
Or it will be as soon as the documents, the resolutions that Jeremy has prepared and has had the members sign are registered with the Secretary of State. But that will happen well before the end of this year. And before there's any actual conflict of interest with me becoming the next mayor.
Wow.
And I explained this on Wednesday. But it really isn't a mess.
It's a mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to see the money come back, obviously. The money was there for economic development. That's what the money was granted for. Okay? That's why it was, we could have done the same thing. We could have passed the PTDA and in turn handed out a grant. But we chose to do it this way so that there was a revolving fund of money for economic development projects within the city of Towers. Tell me, is it that simple? They switch the names, everybody else's name gets put on the loan, and the way life goes? Is it that simple? I don't know. I'm not a damn banker. I have no idea.
It would be if you have the documentation to back it up, but right now Tower Harbor Shores still such order line.
So we can't do anything about it. And he's technically still on the hook for this loan.
Correct.
That's my idea.
So your decision needs to be tonight. If you choose to do anything, I don't know. What can you do? You have no collateral. There's nothing. I mean, realistically, why waive this loan and there's no consequence whatsoever the way it's written? Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct. It's not even, when we sat with Diane that day, she said this doesn't even have any strength of credit card.
You gotta hope, then there's really nothing to do. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Do you guys feel the same way?
The only
So
thing-
we just need to hope that Tower Harbor Shores is going to sign for this loan, and
If you're
God have
okay,
mercy on us.
and you're okay with making that transfer of name.
What's that?
You have to agree to make a transfer of name.
Well, that's the only way you're going to get the money back.
Yeah.
Josh,
Is it totally the same thing?
in a meeting that you and I had at my office, I showed you a document that was an agreement between one of our partners, Lars Hamstad, and my wife and I, where it documented that we have sold our shares to Lars Hamstad.
Yes.
And that was dated October 15th, and that transaction is taken care of. The only thing that remains to be done is for the resolution, which now more than 60% of the owners in Tower Harbor Shores have signed. So the resolution can be registered with the Secretary of State, and it will be within the coming days. And again, if Jeremy had been on the speakerphone here, he would have explained this in his typical, very precise way.
Excuse me, too. I mentioned something, or I have a question from TITA perspective. When I was in these meetings about this loan from IRRB, 126,000, I was saying now?
Yep, so.
It was my understanding that no payments would be made from the loan grant money until there were actual receipts of expenses incurred.
You are correct, but there's a second part of that. Normally, with any IRRB grant of this kind, you would say you gave them an invoice for 50,000, you would get 25. You wouldn't get one-to-one.
Right, but
You have to have
that
some-
wasn't set up that way.
Right, so the IRRB said, okay, since we're varying out of our normal process to do this and help you guys, go ahead and issue the 125 once you have 125 in documented state approved paid receipts, which is canceled checks, blah, blah, blah. But before you close out the grant, make sure you get an additional 125 in match.
I don't recall that part of it.
That was here, that was during, you were here with the.
I don't remember hearing that part of it. That there had to be 120.
It's in the grant agreement. It's in the grant agreement from the IRRB.
Before you could close out the whole.
The whole grant.
The IRRB is expecting me to give them $250,000 in qualified expenses, period.
Because we're actually gonna get the 125,000 back. So they're asking for that 125,000 back to IRRB. There's no 250 anywhere.
No, normally you would not get 125,000 unless you had 250,000 worth of invoices right from the get-go. So they said, okay, fine, this isn't our normal deal. We'll step aside on that, even though we don't like to, we don't want to, but we will. So just collect 125,000 in paid receipts, give out the 125, but keep collecting paid receipts until you get to 250. And that's where I don't have.
I really don't remember hearing that part.
You
I wasn't in that discussion.
Nobody, well, the beginning of it, nobody from the city or TITA even at all was involved.
We did have a discussion that the additional paid invoices would be presented to you once we are able to start writing purchase agreements and actually selling the townhomes.
That wasn't the term of the grant. The grant had no bearing on purchase agreements. The grant was when there's 250 in expenses.
We had agreed on that.
It's a mess.
I guess I just wanted some clarity.
Yeah, no,
I'm still confused, but.
This is why in the investigative correspondence at Sickle City, this whole thing doesn't make sense. The very rules that were set up to guide this loan were all either broken or ignored, and no one else has the ability to walk into TITA and do that.
The TITA president cautioned many times.
I'm aware. We're all, I think we're all aware that this is in a bad.
Just can I make one comment to it? From a TITA perspective, I think we're trying to make economic development here. You want to develop in the harbor. They came in good faith. They want to create something. I think we're all trying to make things work because in the end, it'll benefit our city and everybody in it. It'll grow.
I don't disagree with you at all.
I don't think anybody is intentionally trying to break the rules or, you know, be bad.
But they were, that's the thing.
I
Nobody else
don't,
can
how
walk
can
in.
you say that
Because
though?
All right,
Okay.
No.
Well, we're not gonna get into that right now, but I'm just saying.
What do you want me to do? I don't care what you want me to do, just tell me what you want me to
You
do.
gotta figure out who that,
You need to figure out Tower Harbor Shores, the new, yeah, people. The new officers at Tower Harbor Shores will have to sign for the loan.
Okay, so transfer the loan with the new amortization schedule to Tower Harbor Shore. Okay.
The agreement is signed, or
By when do you want to sign?
By the same day that
Same
the
day.
development agreement.
well, what's the difference if they don't sign it? I mean, might as well just give them,
The only difference if they don't, if they do sign it, then it becomes in good order and good faith, and I don't have to disclose it to the auditors. If it's not, then I do. Because they're gonna have plenty of issues with this. I am not complying with the grant agreement, I'm not complying with the procedures, I'm not complying with the amortization schedule, I have nothing that it looks like that we complied with so far. So I'll just have to tell them that, or if you don't care to tell them that, that's fine too.
Well, we're not gonna hide it.
Well, no, I know, I mean, I meant, if you're willing to just let me disclose
They need
it,
to
you
sign,
got it?
they'll need to sign.
Okay, by 12/14, is that a motion?
Yes. I'll make it. So we're, any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The 8.1 purchasing.
I'm not seeing it.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
See you on the flip side.
Text us the story.
In tabulation, you have two bids.
Did you see 2 bids last Tuesday?
One from 94 Services, Inc., AKA Whiteline, and $243,994. That includes the cost. That includes the cost of the Straker cod at $19,617. Fire Safety USA Inc., also known as McCoy Miller, base bid of $238,750. That does not include a Straker cod. Bid prices with the cod $243,994 from the Lifeline, $258,367 from McCoy Miller. So pretty much exactly what we were told.
So 90,
Questions?
94 Services, Josh, and Fire Safety are the, yeah, the local sales reps for those two companies.
Right, yep, yep.
This is box comes off these,
Yes, these are remountable.
so then down the road, what is the cost down the road then when you get another ambulance?
100,000, roughly.
And then just put the box in.
And yeah, so they take the box, they take the rig back to their shop. Lifeline is in Iowa. Take the box off, put it on a new chassis. And the cost of that is roughly $100,000.
do they refurb it too and whatnot, or, you know?
If for some reason it needed to be. Yeah, the box being remountable, so it's built out of heavier duty aluminum as opposed to like the ones we have like that now, so it's meant to hold up longer, last longer, so. That's part of the increase of the cost of building a better box.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of an ambulance from 94 Services Incorporated.
Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.11, establish a sewer charge for airport sewer customers.
I alluded to this earlier at our airport meeting, now that we have a holding tank system, we have 3 hangars plus the city's building. that are on the new system, and we should have been charging all along for the same concept as we are with the water. It's a well system, but in order to replace the well, when it comes time, we charge $40 per quarter. So the airport commission would like you to charge $70 per quarter for sewer. For those 3 hands.
And that goes,
That would go towards the cost to offset pumping.
What's that?
per
If you put-
future improvement or something like that.
Yeah.
Maintenance plus the ambulance. And then, you know, you have to move for improvement.
I think the airport commission felt the town was paying for their sewer related costs, which should be fair that they should pay for theirs. So we need to-
So we need a motion to establish that sewer charge at $70 per quarter and approve.
I'll support.
2018. Brad's got the motion, Glenn got support for the discussion. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.12. Reestablish Adventure Seaplanes fuel discount.
Originally, when Adventure Seaplanes, this is Brian and Lori Skanky that had come and moved their operation here, we had offered them 20 cents for 2,000 gallons of use, 30 cents for 3, 40 cents for 4. They are rounding the 4 quite a bit. Do you remember what their exact total was this year? I don't remember the exact top of my head. But the way it works out, we're charging about 50 cents over the delivery price. So if we give them 40 cents, then we only have 10 cents left to cover the credit card fee, the electricity to run the pump, and the phone line. So we were losing money on those gallons. So the airport commission re-looked at it and said we'd rather give them 20 cents per gallon and with receipts only. There's some questionable whether we could do some plain meters and plain whatever. No, we want credit card receipts.
Okay.
And then 20 cents flat, regardless of how many gallons. Still give them something, still help them keep operational.
Sounds good. I'll make the motion.
So we got a motion to establish resolution number 2018-019, establishing that fuel discount at 20 cents per gallon to Adventure Seaplane. So support. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And move to 8.13 TNT aggregates pay estimate number 1.
This is for the cultural center. This is what you'll see they're working over there now. This is the first day estimate, obviously. It's for $70,629.65.
Remember, this is not come out of city funds. This is a grant project. City is fiscal aid.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So support. Second. Any discussion?
When do we can touch something enough?
What's that?
When do we some of those
That was
transactions?
my school board, I'm not exactly sure. Any other discussion? Motion and support, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.14, resolution certifying the 2019 water and sewer project.
This is something we do every year.
And this is based on the budget we just approved.
Yes.
Okay, so the water budget set at $140,000, excuse me, $140,770, $40,770. And then the sewer budget set at $82,800. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Move to 8.15, resolution 2018-017, designating Civic Center as a polling place.
We just received communication from the county that the state, this is a new statute, and they didn't, the state did not mean for us to only pass this on years that we have an election. They meant us to pass this every year in the event that we have an emergency election. So every December,
So this is just establishing
the
the
civic center is like polling place,
Herbert Lampa Civic Center.
yeah.
Herbert R. Lampa Civic Center as polling place.
I can change that. for what you're
Is
saying.
there a motion?
I got the motion.
Is there support?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.16, 2018 O2O broadband support.
This is an item that Joan and the group that have been attending the broadband meetings had come up with, and they would just like to pass this resolution of support.
I'll make a motion.
Did you have more to add?
Oh, no, it's good, it's just, they're asking, we want the St. Louis County to be more involved in this whole process, so this is part of that.
Okay.
The reason we're doing this, for all the
Is that-
cities to.
That's a good move.
All support so forward. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. A motion to pay the bill. So moved. Is there support? Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn.
You got it.
You two gotta take it.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support? Support. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, man.